Hi there. I'm Al Turrisi, president of Turrisi and Associates and founder of How to Be a Black Belt at Sales and Strategic Networking. I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm really happy that I'm at a point where I can share this information with you. So it's just you, me, and the camera. I would suggest get something to write on, take some notes, because this is going to be very powerful. And transformational. And we'll get into that later. Anyway, before I start, there are three things that I operate with in my personal life and my business life, and that is my perception determines how I'm going to act. And act can be doing or not doing something to produce a result. And this applies everywhere. Perspective is the key. If we don't have a clear perspective, then we don't know what the outcome is going to be. Now, in 2018, 57% of sales teams did not hit their quota. And I did a lookup. 18 million salespeople in the United States. It's a huge number. So anyway, 57% of these teams did not hit their sales quota in 18, and the trend continued in 2019, and I would suspect that it's continuing right now as we speak. The other thing is in 2019, this was staggering, $86 billion were lost by American companies due to poor customer service. And I can tell you, I can remember being on hold for so long, I forgot who I called. So anyway, let's get back to this, perspective, activity, and results. I'm going to tell you a story, and then we're going to get right into this. But I want this to really resonate with you. In 1491, everyone believed, for the most part, that the world was flat. That was their perspective. And the perspective that they had drove everything that they did when it came to travel on the planet. Now, they may have had an intention to go, let's say, west, but they would get to a point where they were starting to hear that voice in their head, the ground, the water's flat, it's flat, it's flat, you're going to fall off, you're going to fall off. So they would make a left or a right. And even though their intention was good, even though they had a perspective, their activity was not producing the result that they wanted, which is discover new worlds. So now Christopher Columbus, and he does some research and he tests things, and he now can prove that the world is round. So his perspective was round. What's going to be happening next? Perspective, behavior. He keeps going and going and going because he's driven by his perspective, and eventually he gets the result. So today, all this is about changing your perspective or reinforcing one that's hidden here. Now, we're going to go through an exercise. I ask you to have a piece of paper and something to write with, because you have to take notes on this. You have to go through the exercise. And I can tell you, at the end of the exercise, I'm going to make an offer to you, and it's going to be a life changer for you. Guaranteed. You will rock. So anyway, let's get ready for the first step. And the first step is for you to label your territory. In terms of a geographic area. It could be a town, it could be a city, a county, a state, multiple states, the entire United States, Canada, the southern, it could be the whole world. But what I need you to do is to give your territory a name. If you're out in Boulder, it's the Boulder territory or the Colorado territory, whatever you want to call it, okay? So once we have identified the territory, the next thing that we're going to do is to determine how many competitors you have in your territory that do exactly what you do. Okay. Now, You don't have to be exact. You could be off 100, 200, you could be off 1,000. It will not matter. But I want you to come up with an idea of how many competitors that you have in your defined territory that do what you do. And just write that number down. So now we've got the territory XYZ, and then within that territory, I have 10 competitors that do exactly what I do. Okay. Now, again, to keep in mind, this is a subjective exercise, but it will hit home. Now, we're going to speculate a little bit, and I want you to be very conservative now. You know, if you think it's 10 billion, make it 5. Now, I don't want this to influence you, but at the same time, I have to guide you through this so that it works for you. So now, figure out, what do you think when you look at these 10 competitors or the amount of competitors that you have? If you had to guess conservatively, if you took all their sales and you lumped it together, what would it be? So I'd like you to write that number down now as well. So now we've got the territory, the number of competitors, and I had said 10, 9, and those 9 added together in terms of gross sales comes to this number. Okay, you got that? Now we're going to move to the next step. What were your sales for the past 12-month period? And you don't have to be conservative. Just, what you believe they were. And you really should know the date. But anyway, what were your sales for the past 12 months? And is there a gap? So basically what I'm asking you is, these people did $100 million collectively, or $10 billion collectively. These people created that revenue. Now I want to know what yours was, and is there a gap? There's always a gap. Always a gap. Think about this. 57% of the people that didn't hit their sales quota. That's a lot of potential. Companies losing customers because of poor customer service. That's the potential. But we're going to make this a little bit more interesting and a little bit better, okay? So there, and the question is, what was your sales quota, let's say, for last year? And how much did you miss it by? See where we're going here? So if your competitors, make the numbers really simple, you have 10 competitors that are doing $1 million. It's 100,000 apiece. And again, this is simplified just for the purposes of the example. So we know that business is out there, and we know what we did. So there's a differential that exists between this, and it manifests itself in the form of a gap, a number. So again, if there are $1 million over here, and I did 100,000, there's a $900,000 gap. Now the next question is, what was your sales quota, and was there enough extra stuff over here for you to hit it? And again, the answer is absolutely yes. This is where we're going. I can prove to you that you can hit your sales quota just by going through this initial exercise and then seeing, where your perception is and what your activity is and what the results are. But that's for another time. Now, we have the quota. And here is the statement that's the deal breaker. And I'll review this, okay? Again, territory, your geographic area, how many competitors do you have? What do you think those competitors did in the past 12 months? We wrote that down. I asked you what your sales were for the past 12 months. There definitely is a gap. Now, Was there enough in the gap for you to hit your quota? Absolutely, without a doubt. So, having said that, here's the question, or what appears to be the question that you might ask yourself. Can I hit my quota? Or how do I hit my quota? That's the right question. The potential is there, my friends, and there's a lot more to come. And if any of this resonated with you and you'd like to move on, I will be putting out a video series touching on the foundations that are necessary for people to be able to hit and exceed their sales quota. Just briefly, my first sales position, nobody wanted to hire me. I didn't have any sales experience. The short was, I went to work for a beer company. It was the worst territory. Nobody wanted it. And before they gave it to me, everyone had an opportunity to bid on it. Nobody bidded on it. It was out in no man's land. And the joke was, Turrisi's territory is number 25 out of 23 territories. That's how bad it is. So you go to the territory, and I'll cover this in another video on the strategies and the tactics. I took that territory from number 25, actually 23 out of 23, and being in the top 5 within 3 years. I had a different perspective. I behaved differently. I definitely produced different results. Okay. In another company I went to work for as an employee, they were doing $2 million a year, baby photography. And I was told, don't go after this competitor, don't go after that. Anyway, they would bring in maybe 3-4 accounts a year. The first 6 months I brought in 10. Within 5 years, we had moved from 2 million to 27. I have got the stuff to make it happen for you. All you got to do is to be here, take notes, go do it, and then we'll talk about how to refine.